All right, interesting conversation we've had so far. It's time to go into our weekend previews and predictions. And for me, I think one game that stands out at the weekend has to be Newcastle going up against Chelsea. Graham Potter can't just seem to catch a break. You first of all, Arsenal at home, you lost. Now you're traveling away, to play against a Newcastle side who has found an incredible form in the Premier League. In the last 5 games for I think they are in the last 5 games they've not lost any game. They've only dropped points against Manchester United. In that period, Newcastle have defeated Everton at home, Spurs away from home, Aston Villa at home, Southampton away from home, and that's the kind of form they've been on. But Chelsea, on their part, if they lose to Newcastle United, that will be 3 losses on the bounce. In their last 5 games, they've only won 1, drawn 2, and lost 2. And that's why I think the pressure is going to be on Graham Potter. And Eddie, let's quickly look at this one. Newcastle United up against Chelsea. Last 5 meetings between these two guys, these two teams, Newcastle have only been able to win once. Chelsea have beaten them home and away in the last 4 meetings, 2-0, 2-0, 3-0, 1-0. Can that continue, or is this a totally different Newcastle United?
I really I feel bad for Chelsea, and I say that tongue in cheek in a way. But the reality is this. This is a very difficult game. Let's not make any mistakes about this. They're going to St. James Park. And Newcastle right now have all the elements of being a disruptor. You do not want to play Newcastle at this point in time. I certainly don't want to play them. And there's a discipline in their team right now that you cannot see in the Chelsea team. Everyone seems to know what they're doing. The players seem to know what their jobs are, and they're executing. Because that's another thing. It's one thing, to get the instructions of the manager. Is another thing, to execute that. Callum Wilson is in the England squad, basically because of his performances in Newcastle. So I fully expect that to continue in this game. However, if we look at the Chelsea side, I would say that there needs to be a reaction. They've lost, 3 games now on the bounce. So that would mean that if they're going to go into that game, they're going to go into that game not to lose. So that's the only thing that I'm thinking to myself, that this might turn out to be a draw in this fixture, because I think that Chelsea, Graham Potter is going to be like, wait, hold on, this is going to be the last game people are going to have in their memory before the World Cup. So I need to make sure that I don't let us go in there with a losing record. So I just feel that it's going to end up in a draw. So I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw for this game between Chelsea and Newcastle.
Femi.
Well, for me, when the game is under the lights, I always think the players step up a little more. The 3 o'clock kickoff, where they know people are going to see the highlights, that's fine. But when they see the cameras, especially when the Sky Sports cameras, the players raise their game. So I think Chelsea, for one, will not go there and lie down. But the problem they have is they're meeting a Newcastle team who are absolutely flying. And Eddie is a very, very strong Newcastle man because he used to live in Newcastle. And I remember us toying with the idea. I remember in the days of Adebayo, we said, let's go and get an Arsenal, what's it called? Get an Arsenal ticket to go and watch Arsenal at home. Arsenal away to Newcastle, wasn't it, Eddie?
Yeah.
So imagine when Adebayo pulled that smashing goal and you're sat with the home fans and you're an Arsenal fan and you need to celebrate that goal. You're thinking the Jordis are going to kill me and they tsunami. So he's a great Newcastle guy. He used to live in the city, Eddie, and I visited a few times. So the beauty is that city lives and breathes football. You put anyone in there who has no idea what football is, within a year, they will have a black and white scarf. So bringing Chelsea to that place against them in the form they're in, I would not say 2-2. I think Newcastle will hedge this because they will be absolutely buzzing, and the fans won't let go. So Chelsea, yes, will go with a strong mindset because they need the result. But I think Newcastle, based on adrenaline, and who's going to win that game for them? Almiron, of course. Might even captain him this weekend just to put my money where my mouth is.
I think I agree with you, Femi. I don't see a draw in this game. The Newcastle are their confidence is sky high at the moment. They are playing very well. They are playing good football. Almiron has become a lot more purposeful with his finishing. In the final third, Newcastle looked very deadly with Joelinton, Almiron, Wilson as well. Up front, these are guys who have ticked at the same at good times. You look at the midfield, and a lot of their players are also coming into good form. Now we talk about Joelinton up front, but Joelinton actually plays deeper than the strikers. He's playing in the hole behind the strikers. He's the one who combines between the midfield and the attack, and he's done that job very, 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 very well. At the back, all of them have looked very. You see, one of the things that a lot of teams, do at first, and it's something Eddie Howe came to do with his Newcastle side: discipline. He brought that defensive discipline, the ability to keep your shape for 90 minutes and beyond, was something that he brought into this side. And from defense all the way to attack, the way they fight for each other, the way they play for each other, regardless of the name that is on the field. I think that's one of the things that has given them this mentality. Maximan has not been playing, he's been injured. Isak came in to come and score goals, but he's injured, and they are still getting the goals. They are scoring good goals, and and they have leaders across the field. Talk about Trippier, talk about even Joelinton, and you look at these guys and you be like, who can stop them right now? Maybe Manchester City, maybe Arsenal, but their form is so beautiful. Their confidence is so high that I don't see how Chelsea can handle this one. One of the biggest problems with Chelsea is Graham Potter doesn't even know his first 11 yet. He doesn't even know yet. An old man is the best player in that defense, and that's Thiago Silva. And that's a problem. When you have the like of Koulibaly, Chalobah, Aspilicueta, and the rest of them, and the elder statesman is your mainstay at the back, then that's a problem, for Chelsea. And I think at the weekend, I think Newcastle will be a mountain too high for them to climb. Another game I want us to quickly touch on, and it's because it's his second game since he returned. His first game, we talked about him last week. That's Mr. Good Evening. Now I said that and I forgot his name. Former Arsenal manager Unai Emery. Unai Emery is back in the Premier League, and his tactical he showed how tactically sound he is with the way he set up the Aston Villa. This is the same Aston Villa shipping in goals for fun some weeks ago, and look at the way he set them up against Manchester United, and they were so brilliant in both in defense and when they go in transition. And is up against a Brighton side that plays very, very well. Brighton has surprised me the way Newcastle have surprised me. Newcastle are in third. Brighton, I think they're in fifth in the Premier League right now. I never saw that coming. And I would never have thought that at this stage of the season, Brighton would be in any kind of conversation at all, apart from probably just mid-table, being in the mid-table and just coasting. But they've done so well, Femi. And up against a technically sound manager like Unai Emery, what can we expect?
I think that's going to be, apart from Newcastle up against Chelsea, I think that's going to be the game of the weekend, to be fair, because all the other games have a little bit about them, but that's one where you really, really know that there'll be fireworks. Because Emery is an absolutely sound manager. You don't win the Europa League on multiple occasions if you don't know what you're doing, especially with different teams. It's one thing to think maybe one team got lucky, and he got lucky, he had a good team there. When you're doing it with two teams that are not even very strong, and he even took Arsenal to the final as well, remember? So the guy knows what he's doing 100%, and he can set up a team properly. So I think Villa have unearthed gold by getting him. I really do. I think it's going to help them a lot. Now, I'm not sure if they will ever, within a year or two, get into the Europa League places. But what he's going to do is really organize them and get them playing good football as well. But it's early days. It might be yo-yo. That's what I think. So it's hard to call what's going to happen against Brighton because Brighton started like a house on fire in their first game. And they scored goals in abundance before they got pegged back. I think it was against Liverpool, wasn't it? That first game for them. So I think they've got their and they were on a bad patch, weren't they? But they're getting themselves back on track now. Brighton, and they've won at Arsenal a couple of days back. So maybe Villa will be a little more rested. Maybe Brighton will be even more buoyed by the victory away to Arsenal. It's very hard to call. If I was going to put my money, if I was a betting man, I'd probably put my money on a draw, maybe a score draw 1-1. I think the defenses will be on top. I think the strikers might nick a goal each, but very hard to call because of the form of Brighton and because of the solidity that the great Unai brings to Aston Villa. So, hard one for me.
Awesome. Eddie?
This is not a very difficult one for me. I'm going with an Aston Villa win. You know, I watched the way they played, you know, that first game with Unai Emery, and you could start to see what he's about. I love what he's doing, you know, with Bailey. I love, you know, what he's doing with Ollie Watkins. You know, I also love what he's doing, you know, with his players right now, especially Jacob Ramsey. Ramsey was absolutely phenomenal in that game against Manchester United. And you always get this when you play a team back-to-back. So I don't put too much against that loss to Man United because you're playing the team in your next game after playing them. So the team that usually wins the first one, you know, usually tends not to win the next one. That's just how it tends to go. So, but I think that his eye will be solely focused on the Premier League. That's what he was brought in to come and do. And I expect that he's going to, you know, this is going to be a difficult one for Brighton. I think Brighton are going to lose this game, even they're at home. So I'm actually going for a 3-1 victory to Villa in this game. That's how confident, you know, I am just, you know, seeing what Unai Emery has done so far with Villa. And I think that's going to trend upwards. He's a very good manager. I think he's probably underestimated by a lot of people.
Interesting predictions from Eddie. 3-1. Anyway, I think yes, Emery's sound. Emery's all of that. I love his ideas, his footballing ideas. I love them. But that said, I think Brighton will just nick this one. I see the game ending in a 2-1 scoreline. I see Brighton winning this one at the weekend. All right, that's as much we can do on our predictions and preview.